With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Aaron, which I'm guessing is a reference to one of my all-time favorite Key and Peele sketches. Aaron. Anyway, hello, John and Erin. If she's there today, she is here today.
Yes, she is.
So despite the pandemic still being around, it looks like Hollywood is slowly coming back to life. Theaters are starting to reopen, and movie and TV shows are starting production again. I noticed that Variety is reporting that The Batman is starting up production again in September. With movies like Avatar 2, Jurassic World Dominion, and now Batman starting up production again, what do you think this signals, or do you think that this signals everything is getting back to normal? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And does this signal that everything is getting back to normal? No. Straight up, no. But again, it's like the way you described it in your letter. It's starting to come back to life. It's starting. Now we're going to be heading into an area and into a time period where it's going to be very, very important and key to see what happens during this reopening stage. And yes, they just announced that Batman is going back into production, which is a key step. This is from Variety, who writes, The Batman will resume shooting in early September, so in just a few weeks, in the UK at Warner Brothers Studio Levinson, according to insiders. The comic book adventure was roughly 7 weeks. That's a good chunk. Some entire movies only shoot for 7 weeks. Was roughly 7 weeks into production when filming had to be halted in March due to the coronavirus pandemic. The Batman, which is said to be a grittier and more realistic take on the Dark Knight mythos, has approximately 3 months of material left to shoot, which makes it a long principal photography shoot. It could potentially be wrapped by the end of 2020. So, yeah, they're getting back to it. They're starting to, like you said, other big major projects have already gone back into production, right? Things like Jurassic World Dominion is shooting again. Things like Avatar 2 is already shooting again. There's a lot of projects going on, a lot of strict safety procedures being put into place to make sure everybody stays safe. And it's going to be really interesting to see in the coming weeks if these safety procedures that they're putting in place for these sets are effective. We're seeing in the sports world, in the NBA right now, the NBA bubble, where they brought all the athletes together, they stay in the same place, they stay in their hotels, everybody's tested every day, blah, blah. It's been a big success so far. It's been a big success so far. If these movie sets can replicate that success, then it could really more open the floodgates for more and more production. And we are seeing more and more production. And yes, the theaters are open again. As a matter of fact, Erin, I just bought my tickets for New Mutants next Thursday.
Wow.
I am driving
to New Mexico.
I'm driving to Nevada. Close enough.
Oh my gosh, you are doing it. We talked about that last week.
I bought my tickets. Rob and I both got tickets. We're going to drive next Thursday to Las Vegas.
I love that I wasn't invited.
I texted you, asked you if you want a ticket. I never heard back from you.
100% I did not receive that text.
Really? Because we talked about it last week.
I know. That's why I'm like feeling a little FOMO.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'll show you. Once I saw the tickets, I texted.
Okay, I don't know how I missed that because I'm always down for a road trip.
Right. So we're gonna go to Vegas. We're gonna go to this AMC theater in Vegas and then turn around and come right back home.
What?
But I got my tickets, so I'm gonna go see it. So yes, we're seeing theaters reopen. But again, I don't think I'm ready to say that this is the harbinger. Batman starting up shooting again, some theaters in some states reopening. I'm not ready to say here that this is the harbinger that everything is going back to normal. It's not. I think it brings us into a very important period of time to see what happens. Because listen, if what some people suspect will happen, if we see new surges and people going to theaters to causes new cases, and we see these movie sets have 15 people on set catch coronavirus, well, then that's going to kill it pretty quick. If, however, we can have the success like we've had with the NBA and UFC and other sports organizations, other than baseball, who has completely botched the way they've done this, if we see success, then it could lead to more, sets reopening, theaters reopening, things like that. But no, I'm not ready at this point to say that Batman reshooting is the harbinger of everything's now going back to normal. We are simply not. A nice sign? Yes. Does it give us something to hope for? Yes. Are we ready to say things are ready to go back to normal? Absolutely not. Not at this point. Anyway, Erin, particularly as an actress yourself, to now sit back and see certain productions slowly creeping back into production themselves, seeing some theaters reopening, some television shows have restarted
Resumed.
shooting and things like that. First of all, what's your reaction to seeing these things going back into production, and where do you think that puts us right now? Like, are we in a very hopeful spot? Are we in a still, we don't know, we got to wait and see? Are we in a more skeptical, like, how do you see this whole thing?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to look at when we're talking about any production going back to filming is, where is it filming? You know, we hear about projects that are filming in New Zealand and they're resuming. Well, obviously, the reports about the, COVID in New Zealand have been that, for the most part, outside of the most recent outbreak, that, they've done a very good job about containing it. The UK, I haven't checked their stats lately, but that's where the Batman is being filmed right now. A lot of the Vancouver productions. I mean, I have friends that are up in Canada to shoot Lifetime movies or to shoot projects for the CW, and they are all. In fact, I was looking at the breakdowns last night for a project. I believe Batwoman. Yeah, so I was looking at a breakdown for a role in Batwoman. I am not what they're looking for. That's okay, but. It said that the shoot date would be September 28th, but that the actors should be prepared to fly on September 10th. And it said in time to quarantine wardrobe, hair, and makeup. So what's going on with a lot of these projects, specifically in Canada and that are shooting outside of the United States, is that they are flying the actors and essential crew people to the location 2 weeks early, literally either putting them in a house or putting them all in the same hotel where they don't leave at all. Like, they're not allowed to leave. They have to sign contracts saying that, they won't leave and all their food will be delivered and they'll only work out at the gym in the hotel or whatever. They're quarantining for several weeks and then they're starting production. And that's how those productions outside of the US are happening. Now, as far as productions in Los Angeles, New York, Georgia, all the places that we're used to filming, I'm in a TBD state. I was talking to Jason George yesterday, who is on the show Station 19, which is a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy. And he said that he's being told that they're shooting next week, that he's supposed to be getting tested every single day. That's where I go, I don't really know about that, because a lot of shows are saying, oh, we're coming back next week. This Is Us is supposedly coming back next week as far as going back into filming. That's going to be way more challenging because you can't quarantine people. You can't tell people, yeah, you're going to drive to work and then you can't see your spouse or your kids at home. You're going to drive to work and you can't go to the grocery store. You just can't do that. So I think it's really important that we look at where these projects are filming. Anything outside of the United States, they have a little bit more control of how their cast and crew behaves, because if anybody's flying in from the US, they can quarantine. Anything in LA, New York, Georgia, I'm just not so sure. Yeah, we'll just have to, it'll be interesting to see what happens next week.
Because even I was looking at, what I have to do as a Canadian to travel back to Canada to check in with my mom and dad, and I think it's a 15-day quarantine I have to go enter just for entering country.
I will say that it's apparently really nice. A girlfriend of mine is from Vancouver, and she was calling me from her quarantine bunker, and she was like, "I want to." Oh yeah. I was like, "Wow, Canada's quarantine not so bad."
Canada's a pretty good place.
Yes, it is.
I'm a little biased, but it's a pretty good place. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think? Number one, it's great to hear that the Batman is going back into production, so we maybe can get this thing on time. But what do you think about this? Do you think it and a few other projects going to production means, hey, everything's going back to normal? Or are you a little bit more realistic and thinking, you know what, we're not there yet. Let's see how this all unfolds. Where are your thoughts on this right now? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts.